Hi everyone, welcome to the Optimal Athlete episode 9. As usual, this content has the goal to provide as much value in the less amount of time. But just before we start, I want to thank the sponsor that make this content possible. Felt, Laboratoire IVA, DT Swiss, Rule 28, Plaisir Gastronomique, Shimano, FSC Envision, Laser, I2P Informatique, Bonneville, and Subaru Rive-Nord. Thank you very much for making this content possible. I want to remind you that this content is available in a video format on YouTube. You can also listen to the audio on pretty much any podcast platform you use. And finally, if you're more of a reader, this content is now available on my internet site, but also on Substack. As usual, this content will be divided into 5 parts. So we're gonna start by the race report of the month. This month we're gonna talk about Gravel Worlds, but also about Core4, 2 gravel race that were part of the Gravel Earth series. We're going to talk about the race, but also about race numbers. Then we're going to go to the energy tip of the month. This month we're going to talk about heat training, more specifically about passive heat training and how I use it to increase performance, especially in the heat. Then we're going to go to my book of the month. This month we're going to talk about the Lions Tracker's Guide to Life, a super quick read, but very entertaining and useful in my opinion. Then we're going to go to the technology that enhance my work this week. We're going to talk about PEMF mat and why I think it's justified to use it into my recovery routine. Finally, we're gonna go to the mental training of the week and talk about how taking ownership can be very useful. And the little bonus is gonna be the album that I listened to the most this month on the bike and also off the bike. It's a mix of the two in that case. So let's jump straight into it. So we're gonna start by the Core4 race report and then go to the Gravel Worlds 1. I'm gonna go super quickly on both of them because we have 2 to do. So Core4 is a 150k race in Iowa. Normally there's a lot of single track, but most of the single track was removed due to a big storm before the race. So just the quick recap that I did here. Here we go.
Adam Roberge, we just did the podium. You finished second, and I swear to God, if you had asked me with 5 miles to go, you were not going to get second today. So tell me what the heck happened.
I was very good in the fast section and very, very bad in the mud. So yeah, the last 5K were fast, so I was able to catch most of the remaining guys except my good friend Julian.
Okay, tell me about the headspace, because I got to see everyone's reactions through walking through the mud. They were angry, frustrated. There were about 4 or 5 B roads that you had to contend with. Tell me about the mental headspace you put yourself in to not give up.
Yeah, it's for sure frustrating, especially when you feel that your strengths are elsewhere, but those conditions, you just have to trust that at one point everybody's gonna have a problem, and if you don't give up, you're probably gonna end up in a good position. So that was what I was telling myself pretty much all the time, and it almost worked perfectly. Yeah. Okay, so that's the Core4 recap. Like I said, super cool race. I'll definitely do it again next year. In terms of number for Core4, 152k, only 800 meters and 4 hour and 37. Normalized power is 327 and a average heart rate is 164. High heart rate, especially because of the heat. I would say that also the power is probably a little bit lower because of all the running. So when you run with your bike, you're not pushing watts, but your heart rate is super high. so it decreases the normalized power, but also like the total load is higher because you're running in the mud. So yeah, normalized power would have probably been higher with that amount of work. So now for the Gravel Worlds race recap. Most people are more familiar with this one. So it's a 243k race. This year it took just over 7 hours, a little bit slower than previous year because of the running. There was running in Gravel Worlds again. And 2,861 meters of elevation. So they call it the Gravel Sea because you're always going up and down. Here's a little recap if you're interested in really knowing what happened in depth. There's actually a live stream of the whole race that you can watch on YouTube. Just type Gravel Worlds on YouTube and it's gonna be there. Here's the little race report. Gravel Worlds recap. So it didn't take long for the race to break apart. The first 3 B roads were pretty muddy. The first 2 were rideable, but the bikes were clogging up pretty bad. And the third one was like a 10-minute running section. I actually did an over the bar in that section, but was okay. Then we rode a group of maybe 25 to the first feed zone. Pretty much nobody stopped. I had 6 leaders on me, so I was not too worried about it. And then we arrived at the second feed zone. By then the group was shed to about 10 guys. I decided to stop. I think it was a good idea, but most guys didn't. So I had to chase back pretty hard with Cameron and Brendan Johnston. And from then on, we rode very hard and we hit a B road that was still a little bit muddy. And Torbjörn and Simon crashed. And that created kind of a little gap. So Matt and Keegan were in front and I was behind with all the other guys cut behind the crash. And I was able to bridge by myself. It was a very, very hard 5 minutes. Cameron was able to bridge back maybe 2 minutes later. And then it was the 4 of us in front for maybe 40k. And at the last B road, there was a steep climb and Keegan was able to do Keegan thing. And he attacked us and Matt was the only able to follow. So I found myself fighting for third with Cameron. Not sure exactly why I waited for the sprint. I think both of us knew it was pretty even match at the end. And we also knew that the guys behind were not that far, so we were happy to work together until the finish. And at the finish, Cameron, got the best of me. I did some very good watts, so he must have done very, very good watts at the last sprint. So that was the Gravel Worlds recap. In terms of number, I'm actually pretty happy with those numbers considering, I mean, the heat was not too bad, but it was hot in terms of overall temperature if you compare it to all the other races, but compared to Gravel Worlds, it was a cold day. It was like around 29, I think the max was, or 30 Celsius. Normalized power was 325 and average heart rate was 160. So now let's jump to the energy tip of the week. This week we're gonna talk about post-training passive heat exposure. So how do I do it? I don't have a sauna here in my little house, so I use the bath, but there's actually more study on hot exposure in a bath than in a sauna, and it's actually harder to cool yourself off in a hot bath because you cannot use sweating. So I actually think hot bath could be better than sauna for passive heat exposure after training, but don't take my word. What I do personally is I'll do between 15 and 20 minutes of water immersion to the neck. I put my hands also in the water And I will not tell you the temperature I do it. I would suggest to you to be super, super careful because you're in water and it's hot, so you don't want to pass out, so be very careful. Look online, start easy, and increase accordingly. Before and after the heat exposure, I'll consume around 500 milliliter of fluid, and in that fluid it's going to be water. I'm going to include electrolyte, so salt, magnesium, potassium, and trace mineral, and I'll consume another 500 millimeter of exactly the same drink after the hot exposure. So now let's go to the book suggestion of the week. This week we have the Lions Tracker's Guide to Life. Very short book. I mean, it's kind of a self-help, but it's also like a little memoir, I would say. It's like a memoir with some takeaways. That's the best way I can describe it. Here's the 3 quotes I'm pondering from the book. The first quote is, "I don't know where I'm going, but I know exactly how to get there." The second quote is, "Yet, for all of us, a life with no sharp edge would be worse. The hazard of modern life is the danger of no danger." And the third quote is, "In a situation in which things were happening incredibly fast, by being slow, Renia was able to create time." So now let's go to the technology that enhanced my work this month. This month we're gonna talk about PEMF machine. So I've used a PEMF since a pretty long time. So I had a concussion in Paris to Lancaster in 2022, and that's the first time I use it because I saw some studies saying that it could help the recovery process. So yeah, since then I've been using it pretty much every day. It's really hard to assess like the effectiveness of it because there's few studies and the results are pretty mixed, but I use it because there's pretty much no risk. It's also for me at very low opportunity cost because when I do the beamer, I'm actually doing something else at the same time. So I'll read while I'm in my compression boots. So I'm doing like 3 things at the same time. In terms of how it can help is that PEMF machine, they increase micro circulation, and this is thought to improve recovery because improved blood flow will more efficiently deliver nutrient to muscle and also remove waste. And that it also taught to reduce inflammation and soreness. And at least for me, I feel like it's also improving my sleep slightly. So those are all reasons why I use a PEMF mat. The one I use is the beamer. Like I said, I pretty much use the beamer every day after my training and also before my training sometimes. So the last thing is the note to self / mental training of the month. So here we go. The more you own, the more control you get. Do not wish for what is contrary to reality. Instead, take ownership of the situation by assessing it as objectively as possible instead of resisting it. Then choose what best serves your desired outcome. Finally, the little bonus this week is the album by Stéphanie Boulet. The album is called Est-ce que quelqu'un me voit? I think if you don't speak French, it will probably decrease a little bit of the enjoyment. I think the lyrics are very direct, and it's a reason why I like the album, but I also think you might like it. But for all my French listener, it's not the style I mostly listen to, but I don't know why I've been listening to it so much. If I had one song to propose, if you want to try it, I would suggest the third one, je veux pas t'attendre, mais je t'attends. Or the seventh one, je ne suis personne. So that's it for this month. Thank you very much for your attention. And as always, take care of yourself by making the most optimal choice in every moment, and do the same to take care of the ones you love.